All right. Hi, everybody. Today we have CJ with us, who's going to share a little bit about um, what to expect when you land your first UX job. CJ, I think you can take it away. We have about 25 people watching live, and I think more people are rolling in. We are going to do you'll talk what, like 15, 20 minutes maybe, and then we'll do Q&A. Does that sound good? Yeah.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll try
Yeah.
my best to
Yeah.
keep it that short.
No, you can go for 30. We have an hour, but just whatever
All right,
works. Yeah. All right. I'm
Okay.
gonna pin your video and go for it.
All right. I'll share my screen. Can you guys see? I can't read comments. Malka, can you
Yes.
see?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt?
No, go for it.
I'm CJ Marsada. Sorry, I have my notes right here. I am I work at Southern Company. It's a utility power holding company that operates mostly, or not mostly, that really operates in southern United States. They provide electricity and the people there. So when I'm talking about what I'm about to talk about today, this afternoon, it's still afternoon where I'm at. Um, I don't, I'm not speaking as like an expert, although I hope that's what I come to be. I strive to be there, but I'm only 2 months in my job, and these are the things that are based on my experiences so far, and it has been a learning curve for sure. And I hope that by sharing this, I make everyone's lives easier when you guys land your first jobs, especially as coming in as juniors in the industry, in the big pond, as they say. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get to it so we can answer some questions. The first one, let me just minimize this. Understand what is expected of you. When I say that, I mean when you come in a company, in my case, it's a big enterprise, so there's already like an established department dedicated for just tech, and there's a UX team. I'm not the only designer, although I know some people they come in being the sole designer of their company. So just really figure out the company process, your team's process, because more than likely in my case in an enterprise, when you come in, you're not coming in to work on a project that just started. You're taking over, or you're starting somewhere in the middle. So know what it is, understand the process. Each company has different ways to tackle things. Each team has different ways of process, how they decide to do things. So understand what exactly your role is, what you'll be working on, what the deliverables you need to provide, and when, and just just know what is expected of you. Ask a lot of questions, which will come into my next point. Wait, okay, there we go. Ask a lot of questions and learn proactively. When I say learn proactively, I mean don't just wait till you're taught something. So especially in my case, I got the job by doing the whiteboard challenge successfully. So and you pass a whiteboard challenge by asking a lot of questions. Just because you got the job already, don't get complacent and comfortable and just think that you're already there, you're good, you're set, right? Always ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to question things. You're not doing it. You're not questioning the capabilities of who worked on, or the person that worked on whatever that's already worked on, but ask why the way, especially the design, ask why the way they are. Did that make sense? Ask why they're the way they are. What if it's a project that's already been there? Ask like, so what made you guys come to this conclusion, or was it because of usability testing feedback, or was it business's orders? Ask what you're doing or you're assigned to do. So you know you're aligned, whether it's for business goals, for the end users, or most likely it's both. Um, that way you can, you know, focus on the importance. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of whys. If you're if you're in like big meetings, not just within the teams or even within the teams, if you hear terms, you know, internal nomenclature that you have no idea about, like jargons that people that who have been in the industry for a while or just within your company that you don't know about, ask what they mean. If at first you're scared about like asking for whatever reason, note it down. Don't forget, like note everything down, just to be sure. Note everything down so you can come back and then ask about it. Um, the worst thing that could happen is if you hear something you don't know about and you dismiss it thinking it doesn't concern you, and you're just nodding along thinking that you'll be fine without realizing you're already being given instruction to do something, and then like 2 or 3 days later they're like, so I want you to do this for me and this and that, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's bad, right? Because they'll think, what were you nodding along for a couple of days ago then? And then turned out you don't know anything about this, and now we're only finding out because now you're like left dumbfounded. So be proactive in asking questions, basically. Always ask. Don't there's really no stupid questions, and even if there is, I mean, you're asking to learn more. I don't know. Like I've never had any stupid questions. I've never had anyone tell me there's a stupid question, right? You're doing it for the benefit of not just for you, but for everybody. So you can design better. You can become a better designer. And that being said, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Thankfully, I've never made any like major big mistakes, but I've definitely made some like very minor, sometimes funny mistakes just because, again, of not asking questions sometimes, or just, you know, I'm a junior. I came in as a junior. This is my first UX job. So, um, but don't be afraid to make mistakes or slash appear amateur, because I mean you are an amateur. If you're coming in here, you're pretty new. You're a junior. You're bound to make mistakes. Everyone's gonna make mistakes. Um, it's definitely okay not to know everything. And when I say it's okay, there's a typo. It's okay not to know everything. Um, it's you can say I don't know. Matter of fact, you should say I don't know more often. Learn how to say I don't know, but add like I don't know, but learn it. And if they ask you to do something specific, you can say I don't know, but can you help me? So what I do is I always say, can you help me, or like can you show me? If it's something that they can demo, ask them if they have the time to do that for you. In my case, I became a designer. I learned design using Figma as my main tool of design, you know, software. And then when I got the opportunity to interview for the job, they said they're looking for someone proficient in Azure, which I've never used before. And then right off, like immediately, I said, I've never used Azure before, but I reckon it shouldn't be too different from Figma because it's a design tool at the end of the day. But I also know I heard that I've already known that Azure is really like robust when it comes to prototyping. So I made that clear from the beginning just so they don't have an expectation of me, and only to find out I've disappointed them by pretending I know something I don't, right? And they said that's fine. We're gonna teach you. So now that I'm a designer, I say I'm pretty comfortable with Azure now, but there are still things that I don't know about, like really complex prototyping stuff. I always say I don't know how to do this. Like, can you show me? Or if it's something within the company or like a thing that affects the whole company, like a resource that you have to find, like you have to navigate through everything. You can say, I don't know, but can you show me? Or can you tell me where to find it? If they want you to do something that you can learn, you can say, can you point me to resources that you think is good so that I can learn whatever it is that I need to learn. So bottom, I say all this to say you should learn how to say I don't know more and ask for help, definitely, because they'll help you. I mean, you're working for the better good of everything, so they'll definitely help you. And to add off of that, don't be a perfectionist. um, this one is this one really hits me when I first started, because I tend to really hyper, like, focus, like really fixate on something until it's like perfect, but there's really no perfect way to do things. It's not proactive. What I mean by that is that when you're working in as a student on your conceptual case studies, your projects, or in Career Jumpstart, for example, in Avocademy, we have tight deadlines, right? So we have to ship everything, to hand everything off to the client and make sure everything is pixel perfect and all that, which is good. But when you're working in like actually out in real, like, big projects in the company that's going to be deployed, projects can take months, like months. Like, I know people in the company, they talk about something. The one I'm working on, it's a process within a platform. So it's not even the whole thing, it's just part of the process. That's what I have ownership of right now. And people, when I say they, I mean like business, developers, all stakeholders, they talk about like, oh, we're gonna deploy part of it like end of the year or like Q1 next year. So if you were, let me just say this, if you're gonna design things, your team, if you have a team, they're gonna, I've had my designs, like every review I have, every design review I ask for, they're gonna find something to give you feedback about, to criticize about. And I say criticize, like constructive criticism, because when you're working on something, you're gonna focus on it, right? If someone with fresh eyes, outside perspective, looks at your design, they're bound to find something that you never caught, or it may not be like an issue, but they're gonna ask questions, and by them asking those questions, you're actually gonna realize things that, oh wait, that might not actually be a good idea, whatever it is. So they're gonna give you lots of suggestions and other ways how to handle things. So that right there already, if you're spending way too much time on just one page, it's not at all productive. And after that internal review with your team, with your design team, you're going to present it to business stakeholders, business people in business. They're going to say, what is this? Or like, wait, that's not in the scope, you can't do that. Or the guidelines is this, the requirements is that. Developers, they're going to say, no, we can't do that, that's not possible. So if you're going to spend so much time being a perfectionist, and you're going to go through this, so many reviews and so many internal facts, so many external factors, that maybe your company is working with a third party vendor, and you're going to have to wait for whatever it is requirement that you need from them in order to deploy whatever it is you're designing, right? There's just, you can't afford to be a perfectionist. It's too much. Things are bound to change all the time depending on whatever it is that are most likely out of your control. And you're going to be working on a lot of projects, maybe not. In my case, I'm helping on different ones also. So just, I say all that to say, don't be a perfectionist. It's not helpful. And then here, learn how to take and give criticisms and defend your design. Take criticisms. They're never there. It's never personal. Uh, I, for one, I really like getting design feedback, because again, that fresh eyes, outsider perspective is really good. Um, I mean, they're only giving it to help you anyway. And then when you're, or also learn how to give criticisms, because more often than not, I mean, you're not the only person that's gonna need feedback or extra eyes, right? Other designers need those too, just like you do. So learn how not to say things because you think or you feel like that's what's right, right? Do your research. Whenever you give criticisms, make sure you're backing them with best practices. Don't say I think this is good because it's the color is right. Don't like why is it right, right? Do that, and then just don't be afraid. You're not gonna hurt people's feelings so long as you're not attacking them personally. So, and then when I say defend your designs again, every time I get reviews, there are so many ways, there are times where you're designing something and there's just so many ways to take care of it. And there's never a one correct answer in some instances. And they'll give you plenty of suggestions and they're all good, right? It's up to you whether to take it or not. What my senior designer says is that at the end of the day, you're the designer, right? Either take one of the many solutions you're given, or tackle it however you want, based on the feedback that you were given, or just leave them as is. Like you're the designer. If you know you're doing something right, if you're not doing anything wrong, and if you're tying your reasoning to like business and then end users, then you also need to defend your designs, because just like how you're not a perfect designer, you're not like this for some reason like super designer. The people you're working with are not that are not perfect either. Um, they're just giving at the end of the day, they're just giving criticisms, and you can also give them criticism. So learn how to defend your design. Um, Again, so long as it's within sound, what's the term? In sound mind, I guess, with logic, with logic. And then work on your presentation skills. There is no shortcut to this. The only way you get better is by doing. Mm, what I do is before, especially if I have like a big stakeholder presentation, I always ask my manager, and sometimes I bring everyone in if I can get like just 30 minutes to go over. And prior to that, like if even if I don't have like a big business, like a stakeholder meeting, I always say every time I have progress on something, I'm like, hey, I looked at your calendar, you have some free time around this time. Can I do this, or like can I do that? Or sometimes I just book it just because, so I always have opinion on something. So always just if you have the time to present whatever it is that you currently have, just do it. It's only going to help you. And the 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 more frequent you get feedback, um then it's better, because you're working on improving your designs by increments rather than just waiting at like last minute and only to find out you actually have more things to work on, right? And then always, especially if you're working, if you're presenting with a lot of people, not just within your design team, but like cross-functional teams, always tie your decision-making process back to user needs and business goals. Like in my case, I came in the middle, I came into the company in the middle of this process, and then I was given ownership. By ownership, I don't mean like I'm the product owner. My manager said, you're now taking care of this, right? So I'm the main designer of this one product right now. And in order to understand what's going on, I had to go back and read all these like usability test reports, requirements, business, developers, feedback, all that stuff, like history and background on why this current iteration is the way it is right now. So for example, another one specific example I can say is I for the birthday, the field for the birthday, when I presented it to the business, I said, I removed a calendar from the previous iteration because, according to the usability test that I read prior to getting here in the company, the users they found it rather sad that they had to scroll back way so many decades just to get their age, and they didn't like that. So that's why I said I removed that, because that's what most of the people in usability tests said, and they actually found the calendar rather, like the term they use is clunky. This is me defending my designer now. I don't think the calendar was clunky, but maybe instead of just typing in the number actually according to the format that was set on the placeholder, maybe they found all the it required more friction, so it required more clicks. So that's also a thing, right? The calendar itself is pretty standard. Not to be defensive, but yeah, um, always tie your decision making back to user needs. If you say, well, why is that icon like blue instead of green? And you can say, well, business said that, it has to be this way or it has to be that way, and the users found that it was this. So usability testing, if thankfully my company does, like, it's like usability testing is like their bread and butter. Like, we always do a lot of them. So I always refer to that, because at the end of the day, we're creating these products for the users. So their input is very important. I said all that to say, just present, practice. The more presentations you do, the better you get. Now look back. Okay, and then know the people you'll be working with. This is very important. I don't mean just your manager, your senior designer, and then your other fellow designers within your team, but the people within the company they're actually going to be working closely with. The very obvious ones are developers. You're going to be working with them all the time. You're going to have meetings like multiple times a week to catch up on what it is that where you guys are at, and understand and remember who they are. So if you're talking to a business people and that's the first time you've seen them, or like you've talked to them, remotely, especially remotely, it's very important to take notes of everything, their roles, their relevance, what it is that they do, because so you'll know what to bother them with. Like, if you're stuck in something, in an issue that you can't just solve or move forward from without their help, whoever they might be, you know who to go for, right? um so it's like every company these days, they use agile. It's a practice, it's methodologies on how to manage projects, and it involves so many teams, like developers, designers, and then business, and then there's people called product owners, which represent the users, the end users. They're like, sometimes you have all three, so the scrum master, product owner, project manager. Sometimes you only have one, sometimes you have two, but in my company we have product owners. That's the people, that's the person you're going to report to on the project that you're under. So learn who they are, so you can, if you need to like escalate, then if there's something that you can't take care of yourself, you know who to go for. And then agile, everyone is, there's ways to do things and efficiently. So there's sprints. Every day we have stand-ups. So you go, it's like 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone just say what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and if there's any blockers being what it is you think is gonna stop you from accomplishing what you said you were just gonna do today, right? There's just so many, again, methods in how to do things. So I think it's very important to learn agile before you even get to your first job. Otherwise, there's like Avocademy has a course for agile. You can read lots of like articles, and then even go to YouTube, learn specific terms, because again, agile, there's also like terminologies that's specific to agile, like a scrum master, or like stand up, or like a sprint, or like retro. Some of you might not know what I'm talking about right now, but most likely if you get hired, people are gonna start saying things like that. You find that they do things very specifically, and you you might not even realize that's actually a part of the agile process already. Like they're putting that into practice. So that's very important. Um, if if you have the time, and even if you're already hired right now, if you got the job, I still think I'm still learning every day. Like I have so many questions. I have like my desk is littered with sticky notes. A lot of them is about agile methodology because it's still, not just agile, but like everything. There in school, you really only learn foundational stuff, things that you need to like you need for survival, right? Where if you're out in the real world, there are things that school can't teach you. Only experience can, right? Not just to survive, but to actually thrive, not just within your company, but in the industry as a whole. So there's like so many points I'm hitting right now. Know the people you're working with, and then always learn proactively, take notes. I'm sorry, I keep going off of on a tangent. And then, so yeah, know who you'll be working with, take notes of the people, write their names, ask your manager who they are. If you still can't get it from like based on context, so just be like, hey, who is this person and why was everyone like reporting to them? So yeah, do that. I say all that to say, just take notes and then develop your communication skills, especially right now with remote working. It's really challenging, especially for me, like someone who's so social. In person, you can just, if you have a question, you can just walk up to someone and like strike a conversation with them casually if you have questions. Whereas working remote, like you're worried you're gonna bother people or you're gonna add to their already like super booked calendar for the day, right? But um just and when I say develop your communication skills, I don't mean just presenting or speaking, but actually when to speak, like how knowing how to read the room. It's hard with in my company we use Teams. It's hard if you're like in a big meeting, right? Because especially if you're a little introverted, um, maybe you don't know when to come in to ask their questions, and all that attention is going to be on you, and everyone's going to be listening on their computer, just hearing you say what you have to say. But there's no just like presentations. I mean, doing presentations, there's no other way but just do it. Um, like as much as possible. Again, it's hard online, but just learn like social cues, what is going on, who is who, like read their tones and all that. And then very important one is active listening. Don't just listen in to like to hear, but actually listen what's going like actually like digest what is being said. And you can do that by asking questions for clarifications. Um, so if you hear something and you're not sure what it meant, say it back, ask it back to them, just to be sure. Ask it in your own understanding, so you'll know that's how it is. That's what they meant, is what you think they mean. And the more you ask, the more info you get, and the better designer you're going to be. Um, but then again, I know I said it's scary. I mean, it still is to me. It's scary to chime in big meetings, but sometimes you're worried you'll get judged or whatever. But oftentimes, well, me anyway, I find myself that I'm not the only one asking these like seemingly like basic questions that everyone should know about. Because if you think about it, I'm a designer, and if I'm a designer, she's a business person, or a QA quality analyst, or and this one's a developer. We all studied different things. We all have different forte, so you can't possibly expect a developer to know everything design, and you as a designer don't can't possibly know everything about how to code either. So it's just again, ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions because you're not the only one that's going to be lost in a room. Um, More than likely, more often than not, there's going to be a lot of questions being asked, thrown out in the middle, and develop your communication skills. Again, back to learning proactively, because just like when you're not just things design, not just related design things, but like out like in life, if you're talking to someone, it's very important to have that common ground with them, right? To level with them in order to communicate properly. If 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 you don't have that level of same level of understanding with them, then there's no point in talking. So even if you're a designer, even if you're only a designer and you're not expected to learn how to code, still look up like software development processes and you like things like that, or like common coding process or terms and jargons and all that, just so you're in the same page. Because oh wow, my iPad almost fell. As a designer, if in UX UI design, if you design your things really well, if you know your design super like really well, most likely you're going to be able to explain it in layman's terms, all right, even to like a person in marketing who don't possibly know anything about design, or like Figma or Azure. If you know your design, you're going to be able to explain to them how it works. Like, oh, this drop down, if you open it, it does that, and then it closes. These accordions, they do this, and then clicking this button do that. But sometimes like developers, they can't explain things that easily, or business people can't explain requirements so easily to you without you knowing their background or why they came to those decisions. So do your research always. Again, ask questions just to be able to build that, you know, relationship, um, just for the good of the company and your project and you as a designer. And then, oh, this one's important. They're all important. This one is, it's not funny, but it's funny. Learn about business. When I first started, I thought, well, I'm a designer. I mean, this business talk does not apply to me. Oh, guess what? It does. It everything about it applies to you. It, at first, I thought it doesn't concern me because, I mean, they're talking business requirements and business constraints and like budget and third party and shipping stuff, things that I'm like, oh well, I tuned it out, right? But if you know the business goals, if you're aligned with the business, then that'll just make you design better, because you'll know why you have certain constraints, right? Why you're told to design this way, even if you think this other way is the better. I say way all the time, the better way to execute things. And then at the end of the day, it's the business people that approves your designs. So just learn as much as possible. Learn business terms, their internal jargons, and just align yourself with the business goals of the company, because everything about it does concern you as a designer. And then always document your work. Take pictures, take notes, progress. You can't remember everything you did. You can't remember everything that was said in a meeting, like 3 months ago, that had a big impact on your iterations. So take notes, take pictures, take screenshots, because this is your work and this is going to go to your case study, right? And this is that's big stuff because you can put that in your portfolio. So just I always document your work. And then I think this is the last one. Yeah, but I do have something to add though. Find time to seek inspiration. Especially for me, I work in a utility company. I mean, our our UX and research is like, I say really good. I find UX and research fun. Like I like usability testing. I like getting my brain fried almost. But 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 still, it's a utility company. Like our designs are not like, ooh, like minimalist, or like, ooh, that's so cool. So sometimes you can think like, man, everything is just so practical. So find things to like keep you inspired creatively. Do those like daily UI challenges. Go to Dribble and replicate some of those designs and put your own spin to it. Like go outside and find inspirations that don't require your tools, your technical tools, your like computer, like Figma or whatever. Just always find inspiration. It will just give you some good creative juices flowing so you can design better again in your job. But yeah, that's all I have for the slides. I hope I didn't take way too much time. I think I went over a little, like I think I went
We
36 minutes.
we have let me see. Can you guys see me? Can you see me?
I can't see you. I can't even see myself. I don't think.
Let's see. Can you stop sharing maybe?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
And let's do this. We'll do a gallery view for both of us, and now there's a lot of questions. So I will start sending a lot, like maybe 20. So let's do short answers to see if we can get to to all of them.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry I
what
talked too
type?
much.
No, you're good. You're good. They were all great tips. What type of things were in your whiteboard challenge?
What type of things were in my whiteboard challenge? My whiteboard challenge was a redesign of a screen that the company internally uses, the company employers. So yeah, that's what I was tasked to do.
Cool. How did you get comfortable asking these why questions during your meetings, interviews, and things like that?
Um, I ask a lot of questions in general. For me, my I think I'm like super lucky, right? And then blessed to be where I am in my team. My manager, my senior designers, and my fellow like designer, same level as I am, are like all very accommodating. They always encourage me to ask questions. They welcome questions that I have, and the more meetings I go to, you just have to listen in, again, read the room. If you see like a person, like the product owner seems like a really nice guy, approachable. So you just have to ask. The more you ask, people chime in, and then you'll just strike conversations to become more and more gradual, like gradually casual. And like 2 weeks in, you'll just you just start doing it. The more exposure you get, they know that you're a new designer, and you're gonna have to put your 2 cents in at some point. So just ask.
Yeah. Cool. What are some red flags to look for in a team or company when starting a job? And feel free to just say, I don't know, and we can skip to other
I don't know.
questions.
And it's just to
Yeah.
be honest, I don't know. In my team, I think I love it. So I can't say.
Yeah. You already mentioned some, but can you summarize the key difference between working on projects for a real job and the projects you worked on in your boot camp or school?
Yeah, so again, in your boot camp, especially for foundations, it's like every boot camp out there, you work on a conceptual project, right? You have this fake project from start to finish. It's fake because it's really only to get your foundational skills, just so you know what is expected, what's the role of a UX designer. So like how to do research, how to do wireframes, what are wireframes, right? So it's just to build your foundational skills, and then for in Avocademy Jumpstart, the client work, they're all real projects, but um you're not going in meetings every day with like all these stakeholders and talking about deploying projects like right away, right? And then in the real world, especially in like, I don't say in the real world, like we're in a fake world right now anyway, but like if you're in a big enterprise, chances are they're working with vendors. Um, there's so many other like business departments and within the company, other developer teams. In my company, there's only one design team, but there's so many other like other teams within teams. And sometimes the the back end developer I need to develop my design is in team 3, whereas the front end is in team 4. So I need everyone to be at the same page, and sometimes it's not going to happen as smoothly as you'd like. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a question here. How do we differentiate between constructive criticism versus unnecessary or possibly rude comments?
Constructive criticism is everything is centered to your designs. I think it's easier to go the other way. Anyway, if it's rude, they'll you can tell. I don't know, because I've never had any rude comments, but I would imagine it would be something about like, oh, just because this is what you learned doesn't mean it's that, or like not like the tone matters also. I don't know, I really can't tell because everything has just been every criticisms are received were all constructive. So they always tie it back to, oh, material design says this, and that, or according to what I studied in like NGG, or like, is it NGG or NNG? Anyway, Nielsen Norman Group. So they always, if it's a real criticism, like if it's a constructive criticism and not just like personal or like offensive, they'll tie it back to best practices. They always have references, whether it's business or user needs, or say like, oh, this button, like it shouldn't be red because red is your favorite color, right? I would say that's personal. They can say it shouldn't be red because it's a confirmation button, and if you put red, that looks like it's screaming danger, right? So they'll back it with logic, basically.
Yeah, that's good. Any specific must-have books, podcasts, articles, other stuff to look for as a new UX designer to help start in a role?
I'm gonna be honest. This is because I never listened to like any UX podcast, although I have some recommendations. And then books, I don't know, man. I like to read fun books, and sometimes I like to differentiate fun work and then fun. Um, uh, I don't know. What I do is I follow like not specific accounts on Instagram, but like the hashtag UX design or like product design, and I just get like all those articles and then posts, and then I go on YouTube all the time. I have like a subscription to like medium.com, and I read like the newsletters. So that's what I do, and then I just ask questions. But I'm sorry, I'm not the person to go to ask for podcast or book
No,
recommendations.
I would recommend, and I was just rereading it for like about its time. So this book, Articulating Design Decisions, I think it's really good recommendation. Just explains like how to have these meetings with stakeholders. So
Yes. Oh no,
recommendation. It's a
I
pretty
actually have.
easy read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Um,
interrupted you. I actually
no,
have
no,
one
you're good.
recommendation. It's called Stop Stealing Sheep. Um, it's about typography. Stop Stealing Sheep. I think fourth edition is the one I ordered. So yeah, everything you need to know about typography is very important. So yeah, good.
Cool. Um, awesome. So sorry, the questions are all over the place. I didn't like group them. But in terms of upward mobility, a junior designer could work towards a senior designer. What roles are more senior or aspirational to someone who's already a senior designer? And then the follow-up question was product owner. Maybe I can answer this. Yeah, I think if you're already a senior designer, you could always like find a specialty. Like there's really like two routes you can go. You can like continue to be an independent contributor and just like get better at what you do, specialize, like become the go-to person for something, or you can kind of go more of like the leadership management route, creative director route, and start kind of leading teams. So I think those are really like the two routes. Product owners are not, it's not a design route, right? That's
No
more of like a PM, I don't know, like a PM product
management.
owner. Yeah, it's very different. There's no actual design being involved there. It's more business related. Oh, this is a good one. What do you recommend to do in the event that you're leading an explanation for your work, design review of sorts, and somebody asks a question that you don't know how to answer on the spot?
Oh, that's easy. What I do is I call my manager. every time I have stakeholder meetings, I'm not there by myself, especially if it's like a big one. My manager's always there to make sure everything's on check. So this happened um last week, and I was stuck solely because I just didn't know, right? Because I came in and then they asked a question that I had no clue about. It was a term they talked about, like a back end stuff, like a ticketing, like e-gain, Mappa, you might be familiar. And then I said, oh, I don't know. So I said, hey, Matt, my manager's name is Matt. Can you answer this? And can you? So yeah, just I've I've never been in a situation where I had no one to turn into, but in my case, I call my designer, whoever's there that can help.
Yeah, you could, and it's always just good to be honest and just be like, I'm actually not sure. I can
Yeah,
ask X, Y, Z, even if they're not there, right? Like your answer probably would have been like, oh, I can ask Matt and get back to you, right?
yeah, yeah.
If they're not on there. Great. So do you consistently work with different people? I'm not a public speaker at all, but it gets easier when it's the same people.
For me, yeah. I always have the front end developer is always just the one person. Sometimes they do switch up a bit, but for the most part, it's always the same people. So you get pretty familiar with everyone, really. Yeah.
I'm muted.
Oh, can I add?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because in you come in, if you're assigned a project, chances are that project is under a certain department. So you're working with those people in that department. So,
Have you experienced imposter syndrome since beginning this job? If so, how have you dealt with it so far?
uh, yeah, definitely. That's not that's like the inevitable, right? In our jobs as UX designers, I haven't dealt with it. There was a time where I had like a mini breakdown just because I was so I felt so bad about myself because I couldn't chime in a big meeting. I couldn't get my question in just because I got scared. And then I thought that, oh man, like this, I'm not suited for this. Like this is not for me. Like I think I'm pretty confident with my design abilities, but it's it's being able to like again present that design to important people. That's what like bogged me down. And I talked to my recruiter actually about it and Chef Maka, and then she's like, no, like that's normal. The thing that really like helped lift my mood up was she said that it's really important to know all of that because I was like, am I a disappointment? And she said, no, like you're still a junior through and through. You're always gonna be hit with moments like that. So just don't be too hard on yourself, basically, is what I'm gonna say. Again, remind yourself that you're a junior and you're learning. And even people who have years of experience are still learning.
Yeah. Um, on that note, have you ever come across such the challenge of having your expertise or skills being questioned due to you being new? And how can you respond to this kind of situation?
Me, no. I guess my expertise was just how to use the design tool, which is Azure, but then it didn't really apply to me because I made it clear that I don't know how to use it. But no, I been questioned? I would say the answer is no. So sorry, can't answer.
Um, what do you recommend if you explain everything exactly how you imagined it, but the team still doesn't understand your thought process and reasoning behind the decisions you make? I would recommend this book.
There you go.
Yeah, I think really if as long as you have and you touched on this CJ earlier, as long as you're not saying I use this color because it's my favorite color or I made it this way because I thought it would be the best way, and you have like hard facts, data, examples of other people doing it that way, like if you the more data points that you can bring to the table as to like why you made that decision, then there's really then you make it more solid, right? Like what you're trying to explain rather than, oh, it's, I like blues. So here are the three blues
Yeah.
that I used, right? Um, but yeah, that was a good question. Any advice on the job search process? Any websites or tools that you use to find your job? Did you use a recruiter or did you rely on the team via Career Jumpstart?
Um, The last one. I relied on Career Jumpstart. Maka hooked me up with a recruiter. Other than that, I also connected with people on LinkedIn. I had LinkedIn Premium, the free trial, which was helpful. Cold, what's it called? Cold calling. Is that what it is? Like reaching out to people like that. And then there's like Chun Bun's. She has like the site where it needs like junior designers or like fun jobs, fun UX jobs. But in my case, I talked to a lot of recruiters. There were recruiters. Some of them ghosted me. Some of them just dropped me right like in the middle of the process. But then yeah, Maka
Yeah, we connected CJ
connection.
with one of the recruiters that we work with Career Jumpstart that had a role open. I think you found the job really fast. It was 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Less
Yeah,
than yeah.
yeah, it was fast. Yeah. Um, what are some of your favorite tools as a UX designer?
So, oh, I say this might sound contradicting. I hate Azure because it's ugly. The interface is so clunky. It looks like it's made in like the early 2000s, but prototyping, oh my gosh. Like even if your guys' um tool of choice of tool is Figma and you get a job and they use Figma, I say like play around with Azure still. You have to pay for it though, but there's a free trial because their prototyping is so cool. Like drop downs, they actually work when you go in to like input the form fields. You don't have to create every single state. You can actually interact with it. So yeah,
Yeah,
Azure for prototyping.
yeah, Azure is awesome. If any of you
Yeah.
want to go into like a job that's like mainly prototyping, that's the tool to learn. We've had a couple of past CJ grads that have landed like UX prototyping roles by learning Azure. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, in
super
my job, we
powerful.
do a lot of usability testing like all the time. So in order to do that effectively, our prototypes have to be almost real life like. So that's why we use Azure.
Yeah. Um, would you record team meetings? Would recording team meetings be acceptable just to look back as a refresher?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, never had to ask it to record them, but people all the time is like, "Can we record this?" And then, yeah,
Yeah. Um, another thing you could do, like unofficially, is use like a note-taking tool that you can
hmm
invite to your meetings or use Otter or something like that. Um,
yeah.
as long as you don't use the recordings for anything. What's one thing you knew before you started the job seeking process, something you would tell yourself 6 months ago? Well,
Uh,
CJ's job search process was very short.
this is sorry.
Yeah. Um, yeah, any tips for people maybe like just starting out, like the change to UX design rather than or their job search process? I don't know.
Talk to people that you know have the power to hook you up. So like Maka, uh, do well if you're a career jumpstart, to the point where she notices you. And I'm not saying this to brag, but like just if you know you need to impress someone, then impress them, and then they'll help you. Just show your worth, right?
Yeah, that's a good life tip, not just for career
Yeah.
jumpstart, but it is good. Um, what, let's see, what do you think you did during your final interview that made you really stand out above the rest and led to your offer?
Oh, for me, again, I questioned everything. There was in this one site, there's this button that said close. And normally for buttons that closes something, it's like X right on the upper corner. But that one was on the bottom corner and it said close. Apparently no one has ever questioned that before. And I was like, why does this say close? Like this is close the page. And they're like, oh, that actually closes the work order, not the page. So question every single thing. That's yeah. They've had that design challenge for years. They keep doing it over and over again, and they said that I was the only one who ever questioned it. So yeah,
Um, let's see. Any must-have Figma plugins?
must have Figma plugins. Ooh, contrast. It's just called contrast, and then iconify for icons. Um, story story, I think is what it's called for illustrations. It's royalty free. You can use it and measure for if you're redlining. If you're doing developer handoff, it measures everything like padding, dimensions. So yeah.
Yeah, those are good. Were you nervous during your interview, and how did you handle it?
Oh yeah. It was funny because I got in the room before the interviewer did with my manager now, and he caught me like doing like deep breaths, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. And he said, no, it's inevitable. We all get nervous. How I handled it, I just talked a lot, and eventually it went away. Like right now, before this started, I was nervous, and then I talked a lot, and now it's gone. That's just me personally. I'm sorry, it might not apply
Yeah.
to all of you.
No, I think that's good. In Career Jumpstart, it's pretty much only the team lead that talks to clients. Is it the same in the real world? Will everyone be expected to speak to a client?
For the most part, your manager or the senior will handle all the talking. But it's not like you're not allowed to talk, right? But yeah, it's that's just how it is, right? That your manager will represent the team. So yeah.
Yeah. What's the book called? Articulating Design Decisions. Okay, let's do one last question because I think we're almost at time. What was your first few weeks like? Josh starts on Monday and he's nervous.
Oh, is this the Josh I know?
Probably
Yeah,
from
hi Josh.
CJ. Yeah.
Yeah, he's my friend. My first, I was lost. I'm gonna be honest. And that's normal because you're coming in completely new, right, to the company or as a new designer, really. Um, so just ask a lot of questions. I was lost. I was nervous. I was hit with imposter syndrome. You just have to, instead of thinking that this is like the end of everything, just digest things by chunks. So I survived a Tuesday, so I celebrated a little bit. I was like, yay, pat myself on the back. I survived this day. I'm gonna survive next tomorrow again. So yeah, the just chunks by chunks.
Awesome. Any last words, CJ? Thank you for joining us. But any feedback, thoughts?
I don't know how many people are there right now, and I can't read your guys' stuff, but thank you for being here and asking questions. Appreciate it. Good luck in your job search. Talk to people. Always network, and just do your due diligence and study.
Yeah, that's good.
Although
Good
I don't
advice.
read any book, but yeah, study it, study it, study in the way that you do.
Study,
I
but
read
I
a
don't
lot of
read
books,
books.
not design books. Yeah, I don't read design books, but
Awesome. Thank you, CJ, for joining us. We really appreciate it.